Okay. This is the enhanced version of the Jeff Rubin Show, which means there are pictures. So, when you hear this noise, take a look at whatever you're using to listen to the show, because I have a picture to show you, probably one I took at MC Chris's apartment. That's right, this week's guest is MC Chris, and I'm going to introduce him properly once the episode starts, but suffice it to say, he is a rapper, and I wanted to give you a taste of his music so you had a frame of reference if you weren't already familiar with it. So instead of the traditional Jeff Rubin Show theme, Dinosaurs by the Bikini Car Wash Company, today we're going to enjoy Hoodie Ninja by MC Chris, a song we discuss a little later in the episode. Here we go.
Flavor combos, a flashlight and masking tape. We got hoodies and some goodies. We got tools and no so talent. Vicious, splint and stealth and some Barn and Bailey balance. No katana and no shuriken, so let's hurry across the yard. If there's Doberman, jump over them. It shouldn't be that hard. The objective is reconnaissance. The subject is a hottie. Read it from a homeman with the baddest little body. Hella dope. Telescope from little bros. Pirate face. She's about to change for bed. We gotta get there right away. I can't make her so a steak. I'll take a donut, make it glaze. I climb a tree and finally I feast upon her frame. She's rocking cotton panties. So it seems you stretching out so fashion. She's the cutie of my dreams. Here's the T, 32 B's. Yes, I know her cup size. I maximize progress while my balls get bug bites. Ouch! I'm a ninja. I'm a hoodie.
Welcome to the Jeff Rubin Show. I am Jeff Rubin, joined this week by MC Chris. Thanks for being here, Chris.
No problem.
And thank you for having me in your apartment.
Yeah, I know. I've never done this before.
Really? You've never had anyone?
I've never done a recording in my apartment before.
Now, you may know Chris's work, his voiceover work, from Adult Swim, from such shows as Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Oh, there he is. He's cute. Get down here and bring me some candy.
All right. Let's get this party started right. I'm MC Pee Pants in the
Why aren't your
hizzy.
lips moving?
Look, my schniggies, I had a strizzle in my brizane. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So I can't move all good. Thanks for mentioning that.
As well as his work as a rapper, I had a lot of trouble figuring out how I was going to introduce you this afternoon. Because you have a very unique career. When you bump into someone you haven't seen in a while, like someone from high school, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I haven't seen you. What have you been up to?" How do you describe what you do?
I say I'm a rapper now. It's
what do they say? How do they react to that?
It's kind of like telling someone, I'm the president of my community theater or something like that. It's like, they're like, oh, great, good for you. But, the good thing is that I live in New York City, so I don't really run into anybody from high school. The one person I know from Libertyville, Illinois that lives here, I have him master my album, so I figured a way to make it work for me.
So he knows what's going on.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I employed him.
I want to talk today about your influences, because listening to your music, I get the sense that we would be really good friends. We're into the same things. You invoke Boba Fett in your rap like other rappers do Scarface. It's such a unique thing musically. Your music doesn't sound.
It was at the beginning. Now there's a million of me.
That's true. You're very genre defining. Is that fair to say?
I was one of the rap pioneers. I just want to be dressed up like a pioneer. I want to work being a pioneer into this interview somehow.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get the pioneer thing in there. So musically, there wasn't a lot that sounded like you when you started. I
didn't know there was anything like me, because I remember very vividly putting up my website when I was at the Cotton Mill Lofts in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was put my whole album up for free. We put the website at the end of a C-Lab episode, website at the end of a C-Lab episode, and everybody went to the website and downloaded the album and got Fet's Vet. And I remember that all happened at 7030, and I didn't know there was anything at all like me. I was just rapping about what I knew about, And it wasn't all nerdy stuff. There was all kinds of stuff. It was all pop culture. It was more like across the board pop. And
I don't mean to pigeonhole you into the nerdy thing.
I pigeonholed myself. I think I kind of saw what my audience was, and I just played to them, and I just
played to who they were, and wanting to do the best job of that, I researched everything they were into, and then come to love everything that they're into. And now comic books and video games and Star Wars, it's always been a part of my life, but I think there was a part where I wanted to act grown up and cool, and I put all that stuff away, and then I brought it all out again and started making money by just talking about it and enjoying it.
So you started the musical career while you were working at Adult Swim.
I started it, in college. I transferred to New York University, and I began hanging out with punk bands. And, when they would jam, I would jam along with them. And MC Chris just kind of became like a party joke. It became like a other personality for me when I really didn't think who I truly was enough. It just wasn't cutting the mustard in New York City. I just felt really insecure. So I came up with an alter ego to kind of get me through it. And it totally worked. And but I kept on rapping, and after college I lived in Philadelphia, and I just kind of kept on rapping at bars and stuff after work, and doing karaoke and just rapping over other songs, and it's something I just kept on doing. When I moved back to New York after living in Philadelphia, I had started to record when I lived in Jersey City with guys called Attention Deficit that were on the same punk rock label that my roommates were in, and they were called Dirt Bike Annie. And so I asked them to make some beats for me, and I had been recording stuff over MTV Music Generator on the PlayStation 2, I think.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, that's what I was doing first.
I think MIA did that too. Is that possible?
I don't know.
I think MIA used, if not that exact one, some sort of PlayStation music generator thing, and started playing around
Something
with that
had to happen. I wanted to do something, because I guess it's something I really didn't stop doing. I loved hip-hop growing up. I loved listening to rap driving around in Libertyville, Illinois, and listening to Public Enemy and De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest, and just all those kind of, peaceful
It's interesting you
bands.
mentioned that you were hanging out with punk bands, because when I listen to your music, I almost hear more of a punk influence. You're a rapper, but I hear more punk than I do rap. Certainly there's a lot about determination and a lot of positivity.
It was definitely forged while I was really heavily, all the imagery and sounds and the people I hung out with, it was all I went on tours with these bands, these punk rock bands, and how they dressed. Even the cartoon version of MC Chris is kind of black t-shirt, blue jeans with cuffs, and Chuck Taylors, which is kind of a punk rock look, or a pop punk look. And it's just kind of the world I lived in. It just, when
I listen to your music, I also hear kids moshing to it.
That happens every once in a while, but not, with a lot of times at my shows, it's a lot of kids that have never been to a show, or they've been to 12 MC Chris shows, and they just want to stand there and hear what video game I'm going to do a joke about,
Do you find, because you have maybe nerdier fans, that you have a lot of people standing still at your shows?
Yeah, I'll have openers that are like, oh man, they're dead. And then I'll go out there and I'll find out that they're not dead. They're just my fans.
So I was listening to your work on Spotify this week, and I have a lot of MC Chris albums, but you are very prolific, so there's a lot I missed. And one thing I didn't know about you was that you recorded a Weird Al cover for a Weird Al tribute album.
I did.
What song did you do?
Well, let's see. What song did I do? Jeopardy?
Yes, you did. I lost. That's correct. You did. I lost on Jeopardy.
What is Jeopardy?
I lost on Jeopardy, baby.
Which is his parody of Greg Kinn's My Life's in Jeopardy. That's one where I think the Weird Al, my perspective skewed here, but I think the Weird Al parody version of it is maybe more famous at this point than the actual source material.
Right.
And I was listening to Weird Al on WTF Pod this week on my Raren show, which was amazing. My dream for a long time has been that Weird Al would be on that show and talk about his career for an hour.
He's the king.
He's the best.
He's our Elvis.
And, I grew up listening to Weird Al. I imagine you did too. And
Yes.
always looked up to him as something of a hero. And I never kind of thought about why, what I actually took away from that. And there was something he said, and maybe I was just too close to recognize it all these years, but he talked about how he was one of the first people that was weird and was all about letting your weirdness, putting your weirdness out there and kind of letting your freak flag fly. And I think that that's something I try to do, and that's something I definitely hear in your music.
It's definitely music that was made after Columbine, or a persona that was made after Columbine, where you want to figure out a way to empower the audience, or to empower them in a way that might lift them up when they are feeling it's something that's still I need to be around even today because it's something that just doesn't go away with the bullying and everything. There just always needs to be some sort of uplifting music for an audience that people think like, oh, well, I guess that's covered. Well, it's covered to say feel good about yourself, but it's not. It's not. It really isn't. So it's my job to do that. You know?
And I think Weird Al, even though he wasn't explicitly doing it like you were, I think that he was. I don't know. There was this weird dude on television.
By bringing out his accordion and just jamming and not, can you swear on this podcast?
Oh, yeah.
By not giving a fuck, like just like wailing on it and going for a really long time and not really caring what anyone thought about it and just being like, I'm going to be really great at this. I don't care what you think about that. That speaks to everybody,
Yeah, and he was really popular. You saw him on like MTV and he was hanging out with the cool kids and he was doing it by being
And he never
himself.
went away either.
Yeah.
He never went away. The people that he imitated did.
He is always staying relevant, always reinventing himself, and I guess he's mirroring pop culture. So it's
there's always a job to do,
Yeah, but like when he did White and Nerdy, which is 5 or 6 years old already, and I believe his biggest hit of all time. I think it even eclipsed Eat It.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's a huge influence.
White and Nerdy was crazy because it happened a couple of years after. I remember which apartment I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I think it was my first apartment, and I saw it, and I think this is when Knowing This Half the Hassle came out. And I was like...
Which is one of your albums.
My second album. And I was like, well, there's something in the air. If he's doing this, either he heard about me or he's just doing this on his own accord. But, this is something he could have easily done a long time ago. But now that nerd rap is out there, and here he is doing it and, like, kicking ass at it,
Yeah, I think... where does Lonely Island fit in on that timeline, too? Because Lazy Sunday kind of kicked off this huge... internet video. There's almost like a subgenre of internet comedy videos, which is like white guys rapping about mundane things.
Yeah, and some folks get a lot of hits, and some folks have careers. And with the joke songs they do, the battle raps, and there's a whole world. It's so crazy because when I started this, there's nothing like that at all. So now it's almost when you make an album or make a new song, you have to almost hide away like a Unabomber and not see what anyone else is doing and make sure it's your own experience because everybody's making nerd rap, everyone's doing joke songs, everyone's making YouTube videos, and everyone's trying to do the exact same thing that you were doing. In the beginning, you were alone. Maybe there were 10, 20 guys there. Everyone was doing the same thing coincidentally at the same time. But still, now it's just like everybody's doing it. It's really difficult to be relevant.
Do you think maybe that's because rap is just popular? So obviously there's going to be nerd rap, but I bet, I don't even know, but popular. There must be Christian rap. There must be all sorts of like rap about specific things that aren't
I don't know. I bet
in mainstream
you'd have to
rap.
look at your pop charts, which I don't know what they are right now, but I would think there'd be more rap on a pop chart than not right now, but I don't know. I haven't looked, and I don't know what's popular. I have no clue. I live in a real trendy neighborhood, and I have no idea what's going on.
But I just think that like there's probably rap about all sorts of various subcultures.
Yes, and rap has always been really nerdy.
Yeah, that's very true. Like Kanye,
way further back than Kanye.
There's further back than Kanye?
Yeah, if you can imagine.
Well, how so? How has it always been rap nerdy?
Well, just, Wu-Tang and Iron Man.
Wu-Tang's into, like, Japanese kung fu movies that are, like...
They had, like, comic book-esque drawings on their album covers and stuff. It was obvious they loved Marvel because their images look like Marvel images. And when I first listened to Liquid Swords and Jizzes, what I'm thinking of, in my mind, the whole thing is kind of a comic book piece, so those guys were really nerdy, but there was just an article that just came out, I don't know what it was, but it quoted 10 different instances of rappers being pretty nerdy, making pretty nerdy references. After folks like me and a couple of folks like me popped up, then I started hearing nerdy things in Eminem's raps and Jay-Z's raps where I hadn't heard them before.
Like what? What's an example of that?
I can't think of a specific instance of it, but definitely they started doing things that I hadn't heard them do in their earlier work,
Well, nerddom is just more mainstream than it used to be, too.
For sure. I think Lord of the Rings and Spider-Man made everybody a nerd, and everybody can get into nerdy films now because it's big money at the box office. And Iron Man is like... It's like a big deal. It's not a nerdy thing.
Yeah, and Iron Man's like a
something an idiot sorority girl will like know exactly what the plot is, and she'll be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that this happened," and she'll be quoting everything specifically that happens from Iron Man, but she won't, give a fuck about Iron Man really. She's doing because Gwyneth Paltrow's in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone always knew like my parents know who Clark Kent is and Bruce Wayne and like Spider-Man and the big ones, but Iron Man's not even one of the big ones. He was kind of a B-level character until a few years ago.
Yeah, I think it's just cool looking shit, and everyone wants top of the line sound, special effects, and so that's all it is.
Let's talk about your apartment a little, because we are in your apartment. It is a tribute to all of these things. There's so much of all of these things that we're talking about everywhere.
Yeah.
This is going to be like a nerdy audio version of Cribs.
Yeah.
Let's start with the table that we're sitting at.
Okay.
Tons of Lego.
Right.
Lego Star Wars specifically. Mostly, is this all Lego Star Wars?
This is minifigs, and my girlfriend...
Minifigs are Lego figures.
They're blind packs, Lego blind packs, and my girlfriend buys them on her break.
You gotta have to take that back one more step. What's a blind pack? It's like trading card pack, right?
Blind pack is this is like Series 6, so that means there's been like 6 series of these. But they make about 24 or 14, I don't know quite what it is. But, you open it up and you don't know what's inside, which Lego minifigure it is. And so
it's like trading cards.
You have a little checklist and you try to get them all, and you buy a bunch on repeat, by, messing up and getting the wrong one. But my girlfriend's getting really good at it, and she figures out the systems and figures everything out. So now she knows that there's these little dots on the bottom of the packaging, and she's like looking on a website and reading these dots, man. And she's got this whole system and she's got it all figured out. Or she thinks she does, because she'll come home and then she'll open it up and then it'll be, Skater Girl, and we've got 7 of Skater Girl.
What about the actual structures?
The structures, that is just something I made, and I won't say what it is because it inspired me during the making of the MC Chris cartoon. And then the one on the right was just a gift from my girlfriend at Christmas time, and it's just a TIE. Looks like a TIE fighter, an early version of a TIE fighter cross with an X-Wing. I don't know what you want to call it. Just... Lego's being inventive with their Star Wars stuff. They're just making up stuff.
Before we started recording, you were telling me how you got into Lego Star Wars.
Yes.
Can you describe that? Can you retell that story this time into the microphone?
Yeah. When I was working at 7030 Productions in New York City, when we were working on C-Lab, my boss, Adam Reed...
Who's Adam Reed, who now does Archer, which is so fucking funny.
Archer's a huge hit. Back in the day, it was just 4 people in an apartment, and he would make these big... Lego, expensive Lego sets of the Slave one and all that kind of stuff.
Did you do only Star Wars?
Yeah, no, it was just Star Wars. He was definitely specifically a Star Wars nerd. I didn't see anything else. There was actually nothing. He wasn't that nerd. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to just describe the apartment, but there was just a couple of Lego pieces, and so he would do that to chill out, and, and then I got to a certain age where I started to have a little extra dough, and I would just buy these sets, and I would do it in the same way. Either if I was on the road and I wanted to chill out, I would just go to Walmart and buy a set and sit down on the floor of my hotel room and just put it together really quick. And
it's very zen because there's just instructions. It's like
there's an answer. There's some finality to it.
Down here, the Lego X-Wing hybrid thing is sitting on top of your Calvin... Well, it's sitting on top of a box. I don't know what's in the box. Underneath the box is your complete Calvin and Hobbes collection. And I notice over on your bookshelf, you also have individual Calvin and Hobbes books.
I was way into Calvin and Hobbes when I was little. The cartoon is definitely like my idea of what the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon would have been if there had only been one. And thankfully there wasn't. Thankfully, Calvin and Hobbes is something that's just... on the back of cars, in the pissing version,
there was never a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon?
There was never a Calvin and Hobbes anything, and that was nice.
So here's something we talked about on the show. A few weeks ago, we had the guy who writes Sally Forth on, and we talked about my theory that Calvin and Hobbes versus Farside is like the Rolling Stones versus Beatles of comic strips.
Being a kid when I did in the 80s, it was a great time to read comics in the Sunday comics. And, Calvin and Hobbes is just like a beautiful thing. And on Sunday, it was just amazing. Like the art, I've never seen anything like it before or since, And it was so hilarious and philosophical. But there was also other great strips going on. And, I started getting into everything, especially when the summer Dick Tracy came out. I actually read Dick Tracy every day.
I've never in my life read one of those serious comics like Prince Valiant or
yeah.
Mark Trail.
I definitely got into it. And the 80s was a great time. I was into Foxtrot. I was into Garfield, Family Circus, all that stuff.
The thing that we talked about, well, first of all, I was not able to articulate exactly why it's like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles in that episode, but I talked about it with Pat Castles, who afterwards.
Yes.
And Pat Pat articulated really well, so I wanted another try at this. So the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, or Calvin Hobbes and Far Side, they're obviously all really good. Like, everyone likes both of them. But your personal preference between the two kind of reveals something about your personality.
Well, yeah, Farside, Farside was in the bathroom of my cousin in Lake Forest, and we lived in Libertyville, and they lived in Lake Forest, and Lake Forest was, like, pretty she. It was fancy. It was nice. They lived in a big house with a turret, a spiral staircase, the whole shebang. So, they had Farside in the bathroom, and to me that was, like, that meant Farside equaled bourgeoisie to me growing up. And Calvin Hobbes was definitely, like, for the shit kickers like myself.
Far Side is probably the most perfect bathroom reading ever invented.
Farside was the best thing in the world. And then when you saw that science teachers liked it too, you were like, what the hell is this thing?
Yeah. Well, that's what's so great about it, is that it appeals to both kids and adults.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that everyone loved.
All right, let's continue around the apartment here.
What do you see, Jeff?
What do I see? I mean, I don't know where to start. These things kind of stand out to me. There's like these busts. There's obviously a few.
Please do not touch my series of busts. That's a line from my new album.
There's a few. There's a few comic book busts like Hawkeye and Jar Jar. Wait, why do you have Jar Jar?
I have a huge Jar Jar collection put away.
What is with the huge Jar Jar collection?
I love Jar Jar. I collected Jar Jar way more hardcore before. Now I'm less into accumulating stuff.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. What's with the First of all,
why was I so into Jar Jar?
Yeah, because Jar Jar.
Because I identified with him. Because everyone hated him, and sometimes I feel like.
But no one hates him in Star Wars. Everyone hates him like in real life as a character.
Yeah,
in Star Wars, like Amidala is not like, oh, Jar Jar.
No, well, yeah, he's actually Jar Jar is very normal to everybody in the prequels.
No one seems annoyed by him at all for some reason.
There he is, and that's fine, But
even though he's stepping in shit.
In my world, it was an abomination. People talked about their childhoods being raped. And, a bunch of nerds were really upset about it, and they acted like it ruined their lives, when I know it really didn't. And that their memories of going to see Star Wars when they were children were fine, and they really were untouched, and people just were whining. And so I really got into just how everyone was really against Jar Jar, and I just started having so much pity on him. And it really honestly started in Jersey City, and I went to a dollar store, and I saw they had Jar Jar lunch boxes, and I bought a bunch of them and filled them full of candy and gave them to friends and stuff. And then just started a Jar Jar habit of every time I saw Jar Jar, I'd buy it, and people started giving it to me. Fans give it to me. They give me alarm clocks and Jar Jar Frisbees and anything Jar Jar, and now I'm going to get a bunch of it now because I've said this on a podcast.
Is it possible that you have the world's largest Jar Jar Binks memorabilia collection?
I think it's a safe bet. I don't know. I think we'd have to see if there's another guy who's way more into it. But I do have a ton of stuff. And
do they still make new Jar Jar stuff, or is he so unpopular?
No, they don't make new Jar Jar stuff.
That's incredible, because they make... I was just at Toy Fair. Like, every single...
they make figures,
Yeah, but, like, every aspect of Star Wars is, like, 13 Lego kits at this point, So that they aren't making new Jar Jar stuff is...
Well, I think they really thought it was going to take off. So it's just one of those great corporate whoops situations where there's so much excess product, none of it's sold, it's all stuff you can find in flea markets, and it's kind of a fun thing to look and try to find.
It's a fun era of, like, when the prequels were, before the prequels came out, and we, like, really knew about them, too, to, like, kind of reflect on that.
Yeah, it's like it was kind of like our second Ishtar, It was a memorable experience. Flops are lovable in their own way.
But the bust I was originally referring to stood out to me because it's not pop culture at all. It's, Bronze, who is that in the middle there?
Mark Twain?
Mark Twain. I should definitely have known that.
Yeah, I just went to his
Jar Jar.
house. I love going to historical sites and going to where famous people live.
And that Sherlock Holmes next to Mark Twain.
Yeah, I went to London last May and went to 221 Baker Street and went to the little museum and shop there and went to the statue there, and it was just part of my investigations. I love trying to find statues and investigating houses and stuff like that.
All right, I'm just looking around. I see 2 Mickey hats, a Nightmare Before Christmas Mickey hat and a zombie Mickey hat. Have you been to
The second one's more of like a Frankenstein.
Frankenstein's a zombie kind of, right?
I don't know. I guess it's debatable.
Let's do that for the next hour. Have you been to? They look like.
I go a lot. I love Disney.
Oh, really?
I love Disney parks. I'm really into Disney movies. I love movies that are released by Disney that I'm only going to see them just to find the hidden Mickeys, which are hidden in every.
They're in the movies too. I know they're in the theme park.
Yeah, they're in the movies and they're in the cartoons. And
what's a hidden Mickey?
A hidden Mickey is the Mickey shape where you see like
the classic hat shape.
a big one circle and two circles on top of it for the ears, and you see that hidden throughout Disney's films.
But what's a good example of one? What's your favorite hidden Mickey in film?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I saw National Treasure, and there were a bunch of them. And
That was the treasure. You were playing your own little.
I love the National Treasure movie. I can't wait for the third one. I think Nick Cage.
They're making a third National Treasure.
I think they're going to make a third one, and Nick Cage wants them to make a ride, which would be great. It'd be great if Nick Cage was in your ear while you were on a thrill ride.
I'm surprised there's no animatronic.
Look out!
Nick Cages yet between overall.
Hold on.
That's pretty good. Overall, his movies, you'd be like a Con Air ride.
Here we go.
What would have been a Nick Cage ride?
Well, the National Treasure.
I guess.
I love the National Treasure movies because it makes history come alive. Just like Assassin's Creed does. I love history. History is really fun. Because, truth is stranger than fiction, and so if you just dive into history, it's just the craziest stuff.
Yeah, now that I'm really looking at the books, there's a lot of comic books and a lot of pop culture stuff. Like there's Mr. T's autobiography, which must be amazing.
It is.
And there's some travel books, but there's also, now that I'm really digging into it, I'm seeing a lot of history books.
Yeah, you're on the road a lot, touring, and so I read a bunch, and one thing leads to another, and I'm really stoked to learn about the Revolutionary War and to learn about Abraham Lincoln. I wrote papers on these guys in high school, but now I want to read these books, that my dad kind of read, and just the bigger, humongo biographies. It's a lot of fun. It's the cool thing about being an older nerd.
Now this board game collection you have
pretty
is
impressive.
out of control. Now these are not new. They don't appear to be new board games.
Some old things. There's some old stuff.
They
from
appear to be
60s.
primarily 60s and 70s, like classic board games.
Yeah, and there's some 80s, and I'm really proud of some of the old role-playing games, like Top Secret and Gangbusters. I don't know if you saw those over on the left.
Oh, I didn't notice those. I've actually played the Rodney Dangerfield No Respect game. We found it in a Salvation Army in college.
I'm also, one of the things I'm proud of is the Dungeons and Dragons version of Clue, which it's wrapped.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's right underneath Mystery Mansion, right above Snoopy Come Home.
Wow, that one's wrapped. That is still in the wrap.
Well, it's very hard to get. Some of those are a little expensive.
Most of your stuff is not kept in boxes. It's out for playing, but that game is, and that G.I. Joe Hall of Heroes. Who is that? Zartak?
Zartan.
Zartan.
Yeah, he was a kind of an important character to me as a kid, and I love G.I. Joes, and I love the G.I. Joe reboot.
The movies?
Yeah, I really just trying to bring it back and trying to I love watching corporations be like, here's this, just enjoy this. It's going to be awesome. You like this.
I watched G.I. Joe the movie a day or two after watching Transformers the movie, and I was like, I think it was so much better than Transformers.
Well, yeah, you watch anything after Transformers.
It was Transformers 2, because I think those came out the same summer.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe the movie was not especially good, but it wasn't the absolute worst either.
I waited a long time for that movie to come out, and I was taken in a town car from the Gathering of the Juggalos. I just performed the Gathering of the Juggalos, and I was taken in a town car, and we drove 2 hours or whatever it was to meet my fans in a movie theater to watch G.I. Joe. I was so stoked on it, and the Juggalo thing was definitely a situation where I did a good job. At the beginning, they didn't like me. I kept on going. I won them over, and then I just got the F out of Dodge.
Wait, so you performed at the Gathering of the Juggalos? We gotta stop the G.I. Joe train for a second. It went well. How did you get involved in that? They asked you.
I have tons of Juggalo fans, and I love them. They come to my shows, and they don't act crazy. They buy a lot of merch, and they're very thankful. There's occasionally a bad apple who acts like a nutbag, and they're just like Looney Tunes. But that's just every once in a while.
That's true of every
That's
group.
True of human beings.
Yeah.
There's just going to be every once in a while.
So I don't want to turn this into an anti-Juggalo thing, because I just don't know much about them. I'm just fascinated by it. Did they ask you to perform? Because you have fans.
Yeah, they did. They asked me to perform.
Did you have any trepidation?
I was scared shitless, and
that is a very unforgiving crowd. I mean, not.
Well, yeah, I had seen Andrew.
They'll let you know if they don't like you.
I saw footage of Andrew WK not doing really well, and they booed him off stage.
Oh my God! How do you boo off Andrew WK?
I know. They just don't care. You have to win them over, and so, I was picked up and I was driven. And we drove through the woods, and it got real dark, and there weren't any lights, and then it was just a one-way road, and I thought someone was gonna, the limo driver was gonna turn around, and is like, and now you die, and someone's just gonna slice my throat. And then we take a turn and we look, and they're over the hills. I see just like smoke and light and lit up smoke coming up out of a valley, and that was the gathering of the Juggalos. And it was like a little clown city, but nobody had, makeup on or anything like that. It was just a bunch of people like who were just had to want to get away from whatever lives they really live and just like have their own kind of utopian society where they all like the same kind of music. And they're really happy. They're really wasted. Some fucked up shit happens there. I ran in and I ran out. I kind of streaked. I streaked with my clothes on.
Yeah. I watched the documentary. I'm using the word documentary very loosely. It is a promotional film that they put together, basically, and they showed a lot of the backyard wrestling stuff that they were doing there, and it was fairly horrific.
Not the way I feel about it. I'm very. I grew up on movies like the Blues Brothers. I want to. I noticed. I was going to get to you have the Blues Brothers car. If I get dropped off in front of an audience, whatever kind of audience it is, I want to do a good job, and I want them to feel respected, and I want them to feel like they count, because I want them to think that I count. That I'm good enough to be on stage and to have the microphone get 30 minutes of their time. So I went on stage. And, I don't think they liked me too much at the beginning, and they threw a bunch of stuff at me and, threw, tall boys that were unopened at my head and dip cups with dip in them. And it was a really horrible experience, but it was just, it was kind of the closest I'll ever come to, being hazed in a frat or something, because, they just threw a bunch of crap at me, but I just kept on going, and they enjoyed it, and then my set was over, and then they started chanting, their acceptance chant.
Woo-woos.
They started chanting family, which means they had welcomed me into their family, and and then I jumped off stage and sold a couple T-shirts, jumped in a car, and saw a G.I. Joe. But the thing was,
did you meet Shaggy 2 Dope?
I didn't meet anybody. I think everyone was really pleased with the performance and everything. Everybody thought it went well. Juggalos have always been fans and stuff, and I've never had any animosity towards them or anything like that. But after, in telling the story, on my next tour, I would tell the story, and I would say, I got home from the gathering of the Juggalos, and it was a really horrible experience, and sitting on my table there was a copy of Arkham Asylum, and I played Arkham Asylum, and I just pretended it was Batman on Juggalo Island, and because all the henchmen looked like clowns. Well, that sat on, and nobody responded to that for 9 months. But then one of the main ICP guys, Violent J, got really upset about it and got everyone mad at me, and then he kind of weird, he told all the it was definitely a flying monkeys moment where he just attack, and they all attacked me, and that was during a really horrible summer. I just broken up with my girlfriend, and everybody was calling me names online. It was a horrible time, but the
Insane Clown Posse influence on the character redesigns of the Arkham series seems undeniable. It's very clearly there. Harley Quinn looks like a straight up Juggalo in those games.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but it was just a joke I made. And what I think they didn't understand is, I make jokes and they think it's something where I'm saying that you're not good or something like that. But I make jokes about Star Wars. I make jokes about all kinds of stuff that I love. And, and I didn't have a bad time with that experience, and I definitely have nothing against Juggalos. I try not to have anything against anybody just because I'm a person that got picked on, and, the whole idea of the MC Chris music and corporation and everything is just, it's about people that have been pushed around and made fun of, and so I don't really believe in making fun of others or, shitting on somebody else because all of a sudden I'm doing okay.
Talk about rap becoming so popular that every subculture has its own genre of rap. There is enough horror circus themed rap to support an entire weekend of acts.
Yeah, oh sure. And then they bring in a lot of cool stuff too. And not saying that the other acts aren't cool, but they bring in people that like Run DMC and stuff like that, or Ice Cube and some cool shit. And it can be a great time, but sometimes it can get out of hand, of course. The Tila Tequila stuff happened, and so...
Yeah, but, I think if I was going to go, I guess Bonnaroo, if I was going to go to a music festival, is, probably the one that has the most bands that I'm interested in playing there, and, I can't be like, yeah, everyone at Bonnaroo is super cool. Nothing weird going on there.
Yeah, I think that's a different show for sure.
There's still weird... There's still tons of weirdness at any music festivals, I guess.
Oh, my point. Yeah, nobody's innocent. That's a great point, Jeff.
Yeah.
Nobody. I mean, I don't know. 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 I don't Bonnaroo probably is just disgusting.
It's weird for someone who like would go to Bonnaroo to look down on the gathering of the Juggalos.
You should definitely not look down on anybody, especially Juggalos, because they're just trying to have some sort of surrogate family, and why would you deprive somebody of that?
Before we leave the board game area of the room, Mork and Mindy the board game. What is the goal of the Mork and Mindy board game?
I don't know. I haven't cracked that guy open yet.
What about the Game of Life Indiana Jones is odd to me because...
I would play that during Warp Tour.
It's weird because life is like all about just like it's like you got a job, you have a kid.
It was cool because it was a lot like if you found some sort of relic, you could pull a Beloche or a Belloc. I forget the pronunciation.
Belloc, I believe.
Is it Belloc?
I think so.
Because isn't it the other guy who says Beloche or something like that?
Belloc also easier to rhyme anyway.
Yes, but anyhow, the whole idea is that you know how Belloc steals stuff from Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones goes through all the booby traps, and then he comes out and he's got the idol, and the guy just takes it from him, and that's what the game's like. So you're going around the board, but if you can succeed and win some shit, but then someone can roll up on you and be like, yoink.
That doesn't sound like life at all. Because
It sounds exactly like life.
Well, it doesn't sound like the board game of life.
Maybe you've had an awesome life. Oh, it doesn't sound like the game.
Because in a game of life, you can't like roll up by someone and like take your stock options.
You don't like have Shia LaBeouf and then you know, and then he becomes king of the monkeys. And
what about over here on your bed? There is quite a cast of characters in doll form here.
They just accumulate from going to all the amusement parks and all the things we do. A
lot of Nightmare Before Christmas characters.
There's a monkey from Wicked. We saw Wicked, and there's all kinds of stuff there. I'm really into.
I see Lock, Stock, and Barrel from.
We love Nightmare Before Christmas is kind of our.
There's a Jar Jar, some Disney stuff.
Yeah.
That one appears to just be a dinosaur Batman chilling in there. Is that Goofy Darth Vader?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's great. What an interesting match of intimidating and not.
Yeah.
Of all this stuff that you have, do you have like a most prized possession?
My most prized possession. That's an interesting question. I didn't know you were going to ask that. I don't know what I'd say to that. You know, I like it when they knit stuff. Fans will knit stuff like this. This is a hand knit Boba Fett ski cap.
Wow, and that's like homemade for you.
Yeah.
Well, of course, that's going to be one of the best things if someone made it for you.
Let's see what we got. Little MC Chris that's hand knit. I love it when they knit stuff for me, or when they make something with their hands. I love the Boba Fett painting up there is a fan painting, and that painting up there of like the cartoon version of me is a fan thing, and then that white like MC Chris version at the top shelf, that's like a needlepoint thing. You know, I don't know what you call that, but so I like it when they make stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool that the fans are honoring you. What about that papercraft MC Chris? Is that homemade?
Yeah, there's a CubeCraft MC Chris that you can go, and it's Nate Bellegarde's drawings as always, and you can make your own little CubeCraft MC.
That's really cool that the fans, I don't know, make MC Chris memorabilia. That Boba Fett hat, someone would make $1 million if they were actually selling that, and mass producing it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's already out there. But there's I think that's an R4. The other hand knit hat up there, and look at the top. That's an R4 hat because I make a reference to R4, which was Obi-Wan's droid in the prequels,
right?
In Attack of the Clones. I
said right, like I knew that already. I did not. I did. Of course, yes, obviously.
I know a couple of things. I don't know everything, but I know a couple of things.
What is there anything around here that was like a particularly hard get that you were looking for a while?
The Ghostbusters novel. I keep that in plastic, and I really enjoy reading it.
That is a novelization of the movie Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and I really enjoy reading it because you get a lot of background stuff you didn't really. You know, I just love an expanded Ghostbusters universe.
Have like they could make a Ghostbusters reboot or a sequel or whatever.
They could make a great sandbox where you like a GTA with a Ghostbusters skin. That would be really awesome.
I mean, the movies are very funny, but like there's a world where those movies aren't funny. It's just like a cool universe in an action movie or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you played the video game, there was like some backstory on the librarian and like that kind of stuff. I love that stuff. And so I'm sad to hear that Ghostbusters 3 is no longer in production.
That's what they're saying this week. But
although I ran into Bill Murray at the airport.
Really?
It was so awesome. I don't need to see him do anything ever again. Just running into him was like, and he gave me a Bill Murray like, go get him speech like from Meatballs. It was awesome.
I'm pretty sure that they're never going to make Ghostbusters 3.
No, they won't do it.
But I could imagine them rebooting it because it's such a great premise.
Yeah, I can see them rebooting. They're rebooting everything.
There's a Ecto Trap over there, a box just with the Ghostbusters logo on it.
My next album is very Ghostbusters themed, so I have a lot of Ghostbusters stuff out. And just sometimes if I've picked my theme for the album, I'll have what stuff that's involved with that just around. So while I'm writing, it's kind of in my
As
mind.
an excuse to get more of it?
Yeah, sure.
So-
But I mean, a lot of the stuff that I have, a lot of stuff doesn't stay with me, and a lot of the stuff I give away for this charity that I have where I raise money to fight cystic fibrosis, and I have eBay sales where, eventually we'll just have something for a while, and then we'll just sell it, because we try to have as little as we can, because it's not a very big place.
So you're currently recording another album?
No, I'm just working on the cartoon right now, but I am planning, kind of 3 different things.
That's all right. What's up? Let's talk about the cartoon a little because we've referenced it a few times now. The MC Chris cartoon. It was funded by Kickstarter, which is totally awesome. What's going on?
Everyone
there?
does that now.
That's true.
You have to fund by Kickstarter, or else it's not a thing.
We're gonna have someone from Kickstarter on the show because it is becoming. I think it's it's a really exciting
They
idea.
gave way more money than the grants, than the what's it called? The arts. I don't know. The government. The government usually gives away a bunch of money to artists every year if you write a really good grant proposal. And now all you have to do is just go to a website.
So you started a Kickstarter. Do you have any trouble raising the money?
No. We did it in a month and a half, and I had 2 months to do it. And I said 55,000, and we raised 61, and so it was a really great thing. And
what is the project? What is the cartoon?
The project is just we've been having these skits in my records for a long time.
Like most rap albums.
Like most rap albums, we've been having skits, but all the skits in my records are all one story, and all my records
and they're also funny, unlike most rap albums.
I don't know about that. And they're all numbered and in order. I'm more interested in developing a really intense story that if you get part 5, you have to know what happened in the first 4 parts or what happens afterwards. So all of it's numbered, and all of it's on a timeline, and it all kind of leads to the cartoon, which was kind of always the plan. The merchandise, the album covers have always had the same animated version of MC Chris, and now we're finally, bringing that to life. Last summer, Mike Lazo, who's the head of Adult Swim, said, "Make me something," and so I went home and I wrote something and I recorded something and I played it for them, and they thought it was for kids, and I think it's kind of too bloody for kids, so we'll see what happens to it.
It's strange how you can do material that you have an album for kids that is explicitly for children and very kid friendly,
and that might be actually part of the show.
And also completely the polar opposite. I feel like you don't have an in between.
Yeah, I think that a lot of my fans had kids and they just didn't want to listen to what was kind of being offered by Viacom or whoever, and they wanted to give their kids something besides a mouse or a sponge, and so there was this kind of a weird alternative children's album called Marshmallow Playground that I made, and it went over really well, and it I kind of in code talked about some personal things in my life, and it really helped me out, so it was a really great experience. And I'm actually, one of the things I'm working on is the sequel to that called Marshmallow Campground.
I asked you towards the beginning of this if you thought that if you were a comedian first, then became a musician, or a musician became a comedian, but it seems like it's almost one project for you.
It's just all desperate attention getting, and we'll do anything. I love drawing, I love cartoons, and I love rap, and I've always just wanted to make sense to myself, I guess. And so the cartoon is definitely a culmination of many years of different influences and different things.
Is it as good as the MC Hammer cartoon?
No, nothing is. I haven't seen it, but I know for sure that it isn't.
I believe there were magical hammer pants.
Well, they're magical in the cartoon and out of the cartoon.
Can you tell us anything about it? Like, where are you at in production now?
Just that we've made 6 minutes. We just finished it. I just did the sound in Atlanta with the guy that does the sound for Archer. And, it was a really great, amazing experience. I made it with Titmouse. They make Venture Brothers and Metapocalypse. It's not on any network. Nobody owns it. Nobody's seen it. I just made a trailer and showed it to everybody. And it was on Boing Boing Net and Topless Robot and a couple of sites. And, it's a real humble little endeavor. It's publicly funded by 1,000 people or so and myself. And we're just trying to make a little cartoon, and don't mind us,
I could listen to Archer. Like, I could walk around and, listen to it as an audio play. And, the visuals are cool, and I love the aesthetic of it. But it's...
Well, they're very dialogue-driven, and I don't know about C-Lab, but I know that I love radio plays, and I love just focusing on dialogue and just letting your brain do the work and not be just some sort of simpleton that needs to have amazing, flashy things happen, although I do love amazing, flashy things.
If this ends up on TV, I think it'll be the first Kickstarter-funded TV show.
That is possible.
Which is very cool,
That
I
is
think.
possible.
That's- I
It'd be
think that
another
wouldn't have existed.
another one of my firsts.
Yeah, it's cool because I don't think... I don't think, forgive me, I don't know that like your music's ever going to be a mainstream thing, but you seem to have developed
No,
this very
well,
passionate
it was in a
fan base
Honda.
that will follow you.
It was in a. Sorry about
okay.
that. It was in a Honda commercial last year, so it actually did become a popular thing. But there was never, because I don't have a label and a manager, there was never a single released as well that you would hear on the radio. But fans of mine would walk into the kitchen and hear like their mother singing this song, Hoodie Ninja, and not knowing that it was MC Chris. And so the fan would be like, my mother was singing Hoodie Ninja. I walked into the kitchen. So I did actually have a little bit of a semi-hit last year, but I didn't, reap the profits from it, except from Honda. Thank you, Honda.
There was a time when having your music in a commercial was a negative thing, and I don't think that's true at all anymore. And I noticed that when that ad was running, you seemed actually very proud of it, and you were on Twitter telling people to look for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, people were bringing it up all the time. It was a great ad.
It's very distinctively
it played before
there's there's no mistaking it as someone else's music.
Well, some people thought it was a woman, of course, but that's just part of my career, But I think that it played before every movie. It played during football games. It played all the time. It played during prime time, so it got a lot of plays. It was in a series of spots, and it definitely got the most hits on YouTube. And it was a big hit, and it definitely was. Kind of
Did you see
it was the career highlight for MC Chris, because nothing that I'd never made that much money on a song before, and nothing that cool had ever happened, nothing corporate had ever happened besides Adult Swim, which is Time Warner,
and predates the music career a little bit too.
Yeah, so it was just a great validation.
Did you see people coming from the commercial and getting into the rest of your music too? You must surely someone was like, "What is this song? This song's good."
You'll see it. People will look up a song on Shazam or something, and then it's reported online, and so there was all kinds of stuff like that. But yes, it definitely helped. But only so much. I'm always going to be kind of a secret thing, unless this cartoon goes to the moon.
But you have a very passionate fan. You're not like...
They'll always want to see me do this. My numbers don't go down when we tour live. And they're just... it's crazy. We're selling out shows still. And I've been doing this for over 5 years now. And it's nuts. I can decide when this ends, which is just a real rare thing. The musicians don't really have very often.
Do you own the music?
I own the music. Sometimes I share it with another person, like a producer. But it is all me. It's not owned by any label, and so there's always digital checks coming in, and it just kind of runs itself.
It seems like there was a time when to be a musician, all you had to do was record albums, maybe tour a little, probably tour a little. I think that was always a part of it. But now I think to be a musician and to have that passionate... Because no one's selling like diamond albums anymore. No one's like breaking through via MTV Airplay. So I think to be a musician now, you have to have all these things. You have to be on Twitter and make videos and
I was real lucky. I was on Adult Swim, and that was kind of my my forum or my way of getting everyone's attention. And so not everybody gets that. I haven't seen that happen a lot of times since. It was just a real lucky kind of thing, and that audience just kind of snowballed, grew a little bit every year, and now it's a really big thing, and we had a great President's Day sale, and the tours go really well. It really blows my mind, because I would think it would kind of start to ebb or something like that, but it doesn't.
You were on Adult Swim, too, like it was the beginning of Adult Swim.
Yeah, I was there a year before it.
A year before it started.
Before it premiered, yeah.
Did you guys have any sense of how big it was going to be?
Well, they moved to Atlanta, and I said, "Can I come with you?" And I guess I sensed that I shouldn't let go of this opportunity, and I had no idea that it was going to blow up, and it didn't blow up until Family Guy and Futurama arrived. But
that's interesting. But it also blew up Family Guy. Like Family Guy probably wouldn't be back on the air for their 14th season or whatever they're up to now if it wasn't for...
Yeah, it was symbiotic.
Yeah.
A relationship,
Adult Swim seems so influential, like when you look back at like the past 10 years of comedy.
Yeah, up into even Tim and Eric. I think Tim and Eric changed the way people tell jokes and make jokes now and do their little short films. And Adult Swim is incredibly influential. I see it in the advertising. I see it in how people tell jokes. I see it, all over the place. And it definitely is. It's a cool feeling that I was involved.
Yeah,
with
you were there for the beginning. I remember like when C-Lab, because my friends, we were very tuned into Space Ghost, which was like how it started to percolate a little bit.
I like Space Ghost too.
And so when they had a whole block, which was sort of revolved around Space Ghost and Space Ghost-ish comedy, we were so excited about it. And it was such a huge thing for like C-Lab and like when those shows came out, it was such a... It was almost very punk rock, you know. It was like very.
Well, it came on.
It was very outsider.
It came
very,
on
very much for the misfits.
1 week before 9/11. It was always kind of a. There was so much stuff that you had to deal with, and you watched on the news all the time. So Adult Swim had nothing to do with any of that, and no references were made to it because these shows had been in production for a year, you know. And so it was kind of a place I think that people went to, especially college kids, to not live in America. It was like kind of like another dimension where they weren't in the nation that had just been attacked, and they can just live in this crazy acid trip place where everything's Looney Tunes, and you know, and that's where everybody wanted to be, and it became a humongously influential thing. So when I toured, it was incredible. You know, people loved these shows, and I got to see firsthand how everyone felt about it. It was an amazing experience.
So you have the TV thing going on, touring, albums. Is there anything else you'd like to be doing? Movies, perhaps?
Well, you know, I'm a screenwriting major from Tisch School of the Arts, so I would love to write movies, and I definitely have 10 in my head all the time that I am just mad at myself that I don't write them, but I probably will someday. But yeah, I'd love to do that. You know, I think the next thing that we'll probably do is book. Where I just release a book of all my lyrics because I haven't done that before. And then those might be followed by other books if that first book is a successful experience.
I can see a comic book.
Dark Horse definitely wants to make something in conjunction with the cartoon. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Right.
But they've been very cool, and all the comic book companies have been really cool to me. DC and Marvel and Dark Horse have all given me tours and been super awesome for no reason whatsoever. But Dark Horse...
You probably have a lot of fans there.
There's always one fan in every company. I feel like it's definitely like Fight Club.
I think there's probably very few casual MC Chris fans.
You know, I think there are people that don't know that they're MC Chris fans because they like appearances that I've done on Adult Swim or something like that, and maybe they find out that this person is this person, and oh my god, I can't believe it that this person did this, and I like them, and okay, I guess I can like them now because they were on Adult Swim or whatever. So that there's definitely some crossover, and you know, some folks like it, some folks don't.
Chris, is there anything else before we go that we didn't address? I mean, we didn't even get to your DVD collection where I see Quantum. I'm just going to pop some DVDs real quick. Quantum Leap season box set over there. I see the Chipmunks movie, which is a little confusing. What else we got?
Yeah, you know,
Short Circuit. These are some great films.
I'm a big animation fan. I'm a child of the 80s, you know, so there's all kinds of stuff like that. But Quantum Leap is definitely... there's stuff like Underdog and Quantum Leap and Peabody and Sherman, where that's kind of the MC Chris cartoon.
Totally, yeah. Peabody and Sherman Bullwinkle makes a lot of sense.
I've been watching those shows just to get me ready, in case I have to make.
That was like Adult Swim in the '60s. That was like the most alternative thing in the '60s.
Yeah, and it's a really crazy show, and it's definitely a lot of fun. And it's fun to watch how they do a bunch of different things in 1/2 hour. But yeah, Alvin and the Chipmunks just. You know, I think I enjoyed the first one. I think I liked it. I think it made me cry, actually.
Really?
Yeah, sure. Theodore saying, like, you know, I love you, Dave, or something at the end, you know, and I was just like...
Is there anything in the apartment like that you want to let people know that you own something really cool? There's the Pez collections.
We just went to the Pez factory, and it was really cool, so there's tons of Pez everywhere.
Is there something people should know about? Like, one last thing before we go.
There's something that people should know about. Oh gosh, I don't know. Well, I have a Boba Fett helmet up there where, you know, I wore it.
I'm sorry, let me update that real quick. You have 2 Boba Fett helmets up there.
One's the one that everyone could buy in the store, but the other one's the one that a kid in Vegas gave me that was a really great Boba costume. And I wore that that was what I wore to the Halloween party at the Playboy Mansion. And I went with a girl dressed as Slave Leia. And we did it in the woods.
Really?
Really, Jeff.
That is an amazing story. Let's go out on that. It's great that you have this nerd background of not being accepted, and here you are having sex in a Boba Fett mask at the Playboy Club. That's probably doesn't get cooler than that. There's probably nothing you can do to bring nerdiness into being cool more than that.
You know, I don't know about that, but you know, the cool thing about my life and doing what I do is that every year there's something that I can't predict what's going to happen. Every year I don't know what the next thing is going to be or what the next phone call is going to be, and it's just a real surprising, fun life, you know. And it's something that the fans give me, and I'm really appreciative. Is there anything, where can we plug something? Where should people go to mcchris.com is where you can go to find my Twitter page and my Facebook page. I'm on Facebook more than anything else. There's going to be a new website up soon, and, you know, we'll be working on the new album. We're going to be letting everyone know about a new tour. It's going to be coming soon. We're going to be touring America this summer, And we'll be finishing the cartoon this summer, too. And so it'll be ready sometime in the fall. And we're going to be touring in the fall as well. There's a new cartoon on Adult Swim called Type Bros that stars MF Doom and myself. It's made by some folks that used to work on Beavis and Butthead.
Have you met MF Doom?
I have not met MF Doom. I'm kind of scared about it.
So mysterious.
I'm kind of scared about it. I don't know if I ever will. I want to. I'm scared about it. He's kind of like my new Elvis, where we'll see what happens. But, that's a new show, and that's in production right now, and hopefully we'll be seeing that soon.
You and MF Doom are the voices of the characters?
Yeah.
That is incredible. I would definitely watch that
Yeah,
show.
we're roommates.
Amazing. Can't wait to watch it. Chris, thank you so much for doing it. Thank
you for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it.
This is, of course, the part of the show where, in addition to doing my social media plugs, I correct everything I said that was wrong when I was talking out of my ass. A few weeks ago, I asked for a name for this segment, and the winner was actually suggested by Rami, who you may remember from a few weeks ago. He was the one that left all the comments on my blog about the movie episode of the Jeff Rubin Show. He suggested what I think is a great name for this segment, the Jeff Rubin Fact Check. And I'm afraid there are some things that were said in this episode that need to be fact-checked. All by me, none by Chris. They were, I believe, exclusively by me. So let's just get started with that. In this episode, at one point, I said that MIA got her start making beats on PlayStation Music Maker. Now, MIA, PlayStation Music Maker, all very generic words. This is a tough one to Google, but I actually can't find any reference to that online. So it may be true, but I should probably warn you it's entirely possible I made that up. I looked into how to play the Mork and Mindy board game, and the most info I could find for how much time I was willing to put into this was, quote, in the game, you and your opponents move around a special Orkin board, doing such out-of-this-world things as splinking and grebbing up. All the while, you'll be trying to win coins called Grebbles. The Indiana Jones villain is, of course, Bellic, though I think maybe the confusion came from, at one point in the movie, Sala mispronounces his name Beloche. And in the MC Hammer cartoon, MC Hammer didn't have magical pants, he actually had a pair of magical talking shoes. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Despite these glaring factual errors we make every single week, new Jeff Rubin shows every Tuesday. I'll let you know about them if you follow me on Tumblr at jeffrubin.com. And by the way, on jeffrubin.com, on my Tumblr, on the side, you can sign up to receive email alerts. That's one I never mention because it's fucking boring, quite frankly. But it's true, you can get email alerts for the show if you go to jeffrubin.com. If for some reason you don't have Tumblr or you don't have Twitter, where you can follow me at Jeff Rubin Show, or on Facebook, though really who doesn't have Facebook at this point? On Facebook, I don't even know what the address is. Just type in Jeff Rubin, you'll find it. And youtube.com/Jeff Rubin. And now, as a reward for listening to all that, I'm going to play us out with the amazing theme song to Hammerman, the MC Hammer cartoon, which will explain the situation with the shoes. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Hammerman, Hammerman, hammer. Whenever there's a crime, some crooks are gonna do time. They all better beware, cause the Hammerman will be there. Here's how it started a long time ago. The legend of the hammer and how it began to grow. He was given magical shoes from a hip-hop Motown dude. Together they had power. They stood up for what was right. But Gramps was getting old and he couldn't keep up the fight. Right. So Gramps and his granddaughter, they went out on the road to find a man they knew could jam who was worthy of the load. They met a guy named Stanley who was dancing every night. He helped the kids play every day. His heart was out of sight. So Gramps opened up the bag and took out the magical shoes. He set them on the ground and they soon began to groove. The shoes knew at once they had finally found their man. They hopped right on his feet and he began